Peace. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host. So much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let me start it off talking about a new poll that shows that age may just be a number, except for when you're president and when you are in other professions. And also, Trump had that controversial comment when he talked to auto workers, talking about there will be a bloodbath if he loses the election. We're going to be checking in with Caesar McKnight, who's going to give us some insight as to the implications of that statement. Later on, folks, let's talk about reclaiming your wellness, with Dr. Bridget. We're going to be talking to her about a number of things as it relates to the issue of marriage. And we're going to look at some other things as well. So, folks, stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the show. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And let me just say, happy Monday, folks. Happy Monday. Thank y'all so much for checking in with me, man. We got so much to talk about. But before we get into the discussions, let me first let you know we are streaming on our home network at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence. Go to our website today. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free on all of your devices. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And we ask for your generosity and giving a little something, put it in a bucket for a donation to help us to continue to power us in this space and in this movement. But your support means a world of difference for us. So make sure you go in and be a part of the movement here on the digital platform, and make sure that you support us here at Black Star Network, because we're going to do everything that we can to provide you with good news, solid content that's just right for you in Black America. So your support means a world of difference. Just go to blackstarnetwork.com today. Also, follow me on social media at The Real Farajii. You can find me on IG at The Real Farajii. On the X platform, you can find me at Farajii, and on Facebook, you can find me as well at Farajii Muhammad. Speaking of social media, we're also streaming live on Big Brother Roland Martin's social media page. So you can find us on his Facebook page. We're streaming live right now. And we're also streaming live on his YouTube channel. And those are the spaces and places where you can find the illustrious Culture Crew. And that's right, folks. The Culture Crew, that's the group of folks that tune in each and every day, being a part of the conversations, also having the discussions with folks that are just jumping into the chat. Let me just see who's in the crew today. Let's go. I see you, Pauline Hurt. Thank you so much for checking in. Francesca, checking in from all the way from the great city of Houston, Texas. Francesca, thank you so much. Brother Damon Blissett, thank you. Deidre Hall, I see you. Mingley Natasha Search, I see you. Brian Christian, I see you. ABX Girl, I see you. Who else we got in here? Cindy D, I see you. Soka's Adventure, there you go. God Monday to you too, Soka's Adventure. Thank you for checking in, bro. The Stephanie Humphrey channel, always showing her face in the place. Thank you so much, Stephanie Humphrey. Tiana, I see you. Thank you so much, sis. Jacqueline, I see you. Thank you for checking in. And Arlene, happy Monday to you as well. And folks, again, you could join us here in the Culture Crew in the chat, along with the Culture Crew, and be a part of the conversations like never before, because your voice makes all the difference in the world. More importantly, we can't have a conversation unless we're talking to you. So join us in the chat right now as the Culture Crew. All right, let me just do this before we take our first pause. Let me share with you the latest about a new poll that shows that age may just be a number, but it still makes a difference. That's right, folks. Let me share this with you from USA Today. They just released the data for a new poll that shows that 1,000 registered voters found that 59.6% of survey respondents are somewhat or very comfortable with someone in their 80s serving as president, while 34% of respondents said they are not very, or not at all comfortable. Another 6.4% said that they were undecided. So it looks like they're comfortable with an 80-year-old person serving as president. Here's the thing, folks. By contrast, A majority of respondents said they were not very or not at all comfortable with a professional in their 80s performing other occupations, like performing surgery. A high number of folks said 62.3% said they're not comfortable with that. Piloting a flight, 60% of folks said they're not comfortable with that. Or driving a school bus, 55% said they weren't comfortable with that. What do you make of that, y'all? That is interesting. Now, you could be the leader of the quote unquote free world. You can have the most stressful job on the globe as an 80-year-old, but you can't, they're not going to perform a surgery. And this is no shade on President Biden. I think this is just interesting how people are seeing this. This is very fascinating to me. So I thought I'd bring it to y'all. But their folks are not comfortable with an 80-year-old individual performing surgery, piloting a plane, or driving a school bus. Okay, that's very, very interesting. Look, we're going to take our first pause. When we come forward, what's your take on this? Are you comfortable with those things? Does age make a difference for you in other professions? Share your comments. Join us in the chat right now. This is very, very interesting. My man Brian, you said presidents have people driving for them. Absolutely, for the rest of their lives, brother. For the rest of their lives. But you're absolutely right. Presidents have people driving for them. So are you comfortable with an 80-year-old doing other work outside of being president of the United States? It could be a good thing for President Biden and former President Trump. It could be a good thing, right? But for the other professions, it may not be so. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. Look, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. Let's get your take. Let's get your comments and join us. And stay tuned. We're just getting started here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, talking about a new USA Today poll that looks at this phenomenon around age. Now, of course, we've been talking about age and the importance of age and the impact of age as it relates to the president, and considering the ages of President Biden and former President Trump. But there's a new poll that shows that age is not just a factor when it comes to the big seat in the White House, is also a factor in other professions. So based upon a new USA Today poll, they found that 1,000 registered voters said that they were not at all comfortable with a professional in their 80s performing other occupations like surgery, piloting a plane, or driving a bus. Interesting, but they are fine. 59%, nearly 60% of those 1,000 registered voters said that they were comfortable with an 80-year-old taking on the position of president of the United States. That is very, very interesting. All right, let me hear what you got to say about this, crew. Post your comments as we're streaming right now on Big Brother Roland Martin's Facebook page, as well as his YouTube chat. And I would love to hear what y'all have to say. All right, let me see. Who did I see this first? Who said something about this first? Cindy D, my sister. You said it doesn't matter as long as they can do the job. If they can't, then they need to step down. Now, that's an interesting part, right? Because who determines whether a person can or cannot do a job, right? And I know for me sometimes, and it may be for y'all, some of you might be getting older in age, which is all good. It's all good. But sometimes, our mind plays tricks on us. We think we can do certain things, then people got around us is like, you're not that young anymore. You may not be able to do it. You're like, no, I can do this. I can do this. Anybody ever come across anybody like that, right? Like here's a person who believes even at 60, 70, I mean, I've heard 60, 70-year-old men say, I'll outrun you. I can still run a 4. Come on. So if we're, and look, how many times have we talked on this platform, on this show, where we're seeing political people, whether it's political people or others, but we've seen a lot more political people in their 90s. We've heard the stories, people that just literally die while being in the post of office, right? And they don't know when to give it up. So back to your point, Cindy, that, yeah, as long as they could do the job, but sometimes somebody has to be there to remind them, like, maybe you're getting a little bit up age. This is not just for politics. This is for any profession. This is for any profession. So if you tell a person who's been driving a bus for, say, 30 years and say, look, you're getting up in age, 40, they've been doing this for 30, 40 years, and they're getting up in age, how about, you stepping down? And they're like, no, I can still do it. I can still do it. I have all my faculties. It's harder for people to step down. All right, let me hear what else you got to say. Cindy, thank you so much. Tiana, you said we had a pressman who was 80 years old and he did his job very well. I'm not saying, and that's cool. That's cool. It depends on, I think it really depends on the nature of the job, how stressful, how much physicality comes with the job. I mean, I think it's on the nature of the job, right? Brian, you said as pilots and surgeons, no, I want someone younger, but I would be okay if a therapist was a senior. Okay. So pilots and surgeons is a no for you. A therapist is a yes. Got you, big bro. Thank you so much. Deidre, you said, I mean, age shouldn't matter as long as they're doing their job. Again, who makes that determination whether the person can or cannot do their job? Because sometimes it's harder for us as we get older and much more wiser and mature. Sometimes it gets harder for us to let go of certain roles and positions. All right, let me just get a couple of more here before we take our next pause. Stephanie Humphrey from you said, I am fine with a seasoned person doing their job as long as their mind is sharp, hand is steady, and they are focused on the work. If the elder is 90 or over, I may have different thoughts. Here's something I always keep in mind, Stephanie, and I think you're making a good criteria, like a good set of metrics here that we can look. You're talking about a sharp mind, steady hand, focused on their work. My thinking is, can you imagine your grandmother doing certain things or your grandfather doing certain things? You know, I don't even know. And I know the people say that based upon this poll of those 1,000 registered voters, nearly 60% of people say they want, but I wouldn't even put my grandmother who, you know, at 80 or my granddad, if they were 80 or something, you know, hey, let me just toss you into this political fray called the presidency of the United States. And, you know, and it's like, it's a lot though. You have to have the physical. Now, again, this is not a shade on President Joe Biden, but this is a very different conversation. Davey Floater, you said mandatory retirement for all 80-year-olds. I don't think mandatory, but maybe something a little bit less, you know, as strenuous. I mean, look, maybe it's me, y'all. I'm the type of person that once you get to a certain age, you can still make an impact. You can talk to, mentor the next generation to come behind you, right? You can make an impact in other ways. You don't have to be on the front lines at 85, 90 years old. You can guide from the back and still make the impact that you want to make, but you don't have to be on the front lines. That's my view. And once you get to that point, if you put this work in, if you've been doing, and this is any profession, this is not just politics, this is any profession, you've been doing this work for 40, 50, 60 years. Why not just take a few and just be like, you know what, I did my time, let me get the next generation up, but I'm not going to be on the front lines of this job all the time. And when we talk about health and wellness, man, what are we trying to accomplish? What's the end goal? So you want to literally work until the end of your days on earth? Not me, y'all. Not me. Brian, you say you could be an artist at any age. You're absolutely right. You can still create all the way up until that day comes. Dolly Jenkins checking in from Facebook, watching from Houston. You said we all know how Trump is not competent at any age. I think up to your doctors to say if you are okay. That's a good point. I think, yeah, Trump is on a whole different league of his own mentally. But to the point of to being up to your doctor, Dolly, it might be doctors, it might be family and friends. You got to have people in your orbit that are really thinking about your health and well-being, that's really serious about making sure that you're good, right? Not just trying to use you. Like, again, I don't want to be 80, 85 years old and I got to still take care of grown-ass people. I'm not carrying grown people on my shoulders, yo. You know what I'm saying? Because, we need you to still do this and that because I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. But again, you can still make an impact. It's just coming to grips with what you can and cannot do right now. I'm talking about in your mind. I'm going back to what you said, Stephanie Humphrey Chow. You talking about sharp mind, you talking about steady hand, you talking about being focused. If you see that these things are on the decline for your body, for your mind, for your faculties, and all of these things are just kind of a little uncertain, why put yourself through? And if you got people around you who are like, go ahead, grandpa, go ahead and keep working all the way until, you can't drive no more. You got one eye in your sight. Go ahead, grandma, keep on being that surgeon. Keep on doing this. Keep on. Come on. I'll be mad as hell at y'all. I'll be mad as hell. Let me see who else we got. The ABX girl, you said the fastest growing group of homeless are over 60. They must work. EDP, if so, what do you mean? I don't know what EDP stands for. ABX girl, you gotta school me on that one. If Social Security is cut, if Trump wins. So the fastest growing group of homeless are over 60 and they have to work. Yeah. And that's a different thing. That's just not about age. That's just about benefits. That's just about cost of living. That's about economics. It's not just about age in that too. But yeah, I see your point. I definitely see your point. Deidre, you said that's why we need to talk about Social Security and retirement. Absolutely. Maybe we should have a segment on that because we don't have that part of the conversation about Social Security, putting something in the nest egg. We don't have that part of the conversation about thinking about creating a legacy plan for you and your children. But you should do that in your 50s and 60s. You know what I'm saying? Because none of us are going to be here forever. If you wait until your 80s to have those conversations, that's a problem. That's a problem. But just wanted to bring this to y'all attention, folks. It is very, very fascinating that that's how people see it. But I think that this might also open up the door of how we treat our seniors in this country, because we expect them to carry us all the way through. This has been the challenge of the baby boomer generation. And so we're seeing some different things on Generation X. We're seeing some different things with this latest, with the new generation. There are some real things that we have to think about, but something certainly to think about. All right, I got to take another quick pause when we come forward. Let's talk about former President Trump and his controversial comments of that there will be a bloodbath in this country if he's not elected. We'll have that conversation with Attorney Caesar McKnight. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and being a part of the conversation. All right, let's talk about the big culture convo for today, which is what former President Donald Trump said as he was talking about car manufacturing and the relationship that America has with foreign manufacturers. He said that essentially, and I don't know where this came out of, he was talking about one thing, next thing you know, it just turns into something else. But he made a comment, and I want to pull up this quote right there. And Lise and Maddie, let's see if we can find the actual quote, the clip. But I want to show you what was said in writing. So let's go to this really quickly. When the president said, "If you're listening, President Zing, and you and I are friends," wow, okay. But he understands the way I deal. Those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, you're going to not hire Americans and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line. And you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected, according to the president, former president. This is what he said. Second quote, take a listen. He said, "Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories." He later added, "If this election isn't won, I'm not sure that you'll ever have another election in this country." This is the man that's running for president of the United States. And essentially, folks, this man is saying that if he does not get elected, he would rather destroy the country because he didn't get elected. This sounds like childish behavior at best. Let me bring in Brother Caesar McKnight, who's an attorney, checking in with us. Caesar, thank you so much, dear brother, for being with us once again. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm good. What does this say? What are we hearing here? Now, I saw a couple of folks like posting the clip of the former president. You know, he is going off. He always says some off the cuff stuff, but this one has taken. People feel like he's crossing a big line here. Is this his normal rhetoric, or is this something different that you're hearing?
It's his normal rhetoric, but his rhetoric is always outrageous, extremist, and prone to promote violence. I mean, that's Trump 101. And he loves to say the outrageous and then wink and say, "Oh, shucks, I was just playing." No, you're very serious. As a lawyer, we learned that there's a way of viewing the law. It's called textualism. And that means reading the law as it's written. Well, if you apply that to reading Trump's statement as it's written, There's only one way to take that, and that is, other than electing me, the United States is going to have a bloodbath. That's the only thing you can glean from what he said. It's the only thing you can glean from reading what he said. And so anybody else that tries to suggest otherwise is basically carrying the former president's water.
Absolutely. Real Brooklyn, you bring up a point. Welcome again to the chat, bro. You said, I don't even know what's scarier, a man viewed by many as a leader saying this, or there are people out there that would take this as gospel. Lord Jesus, help us. What is scarier in this case, Brother Caesar? Is it the fact that it's him, or you got people out there who are like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll take this situation down?
What's scarier is that we have already seen this country, or people in this country, willing to engage in a level of violence that we've never seen before. And I'm talking about January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
This is no longer a hypothetical. This is no longer a thought experiment. This is reality. And you can hear the grumblings already on social media. This time, the extreme right not only plans to be protesting in DC if he loses, but they plan to be at various state capitals trying to intimidate state legislators to get them to not certify the election, or to just basically put the election results aside and send a new slate of electors to DC for the certification of the election. So you just have to take him at face value. But what Donald Trump is relying on is the fact that no one's paying attention, because he said all of these things for so long and nothing's happened. And what I think is, in the United States, we're so polite to a fault that we will just let say things and say things and say things like him. And now when we're on the cusp of having all the bad things he said come true, it's too late now, because it's already baked into the cake. No one's going to pay attention to it. But what's even more frightening is that there's someone running to be president, and their only platform is, the world sucks and it's going to be even worse unless I win. So you mean there's nothing good in the country? There's nothing good for us to rave about? There's nothing for us to talk about how we've been a nation that started out one way and have evolved into what it is that we are now? So we're an active work in progress, and we're moving towards a more perfect union. I choose, and I'm not Pollyannish at all, but are there some wonderful things about this country? Of course there are. I was just telling a friend the other day that people like my parents from an interracial marriage up until 1967 couldn't even get married. Now, that's not even a thought of here in the United States. There was a time where a little boy like me, a little black boy like me, couldn't drink out of a water fountain. We're way beyond that now. So we've made some accomplishments. And that's not to say that there's not things we need to be doing, because there are. But yeah, I don't want to hear from a man that everything is doom and gloom, because he's just a snake oil salesman. And I'm tired of his ilk.
Let me ask you this. On a legal front, here is a man that is running for president, but he also got all of these other cases, indictments. I mean, got all of this other legal stuff happening. Can this kind of rhetoric be used against him? Is he breaking any law by kind of prophesizing or wishing that certain things would happen? Is that happening at this moment?
No. Now, because, in one of our most hallowed tenets in this country is freedom of speech. So right. You can practically say anything. Now, don't get me wrong. We know you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. We know you can't incite people to riot. So arguably what he did on January 6th is inciting people to riot. But just him standing on a stage and being the carnival barker that he isn't necessarily violative of the law. But you have also seen him say things and get himself in further trouble. I give you what happened with the E. Jean Carroll case. Right. After he got sued, he went out and defamed her again, and she popped him again. So yeah, there's some ramifications there, but this speech in itself doesn't give rise to anything that's either criminal or civilly liable, in my opinion.
All right, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's have more conversation with Caesar McKnight and with you folks. Post your comments in the chat as we're talking about former President Trump's controversial comments that he made over the weekend, saying that there will be a bloodbath if he is not elected to the presidency. in November. We'll continue to talk about it on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by attorney Caesar McKnight as we talk about the controversial statement from former President Donald Trump over the weekend. I want to play, and I saw Jupiter 1000X Ice. You said, Farajii, stop. Both of y'all are wrong on this because y'all taking that out of context, not what he meant or said. Lisa, can we play the clip, please? Looks like we might have some audio issues. We're going to try to get this worked out.
To China. if you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine.
That's what he said, Brother Caesar.
He doubles down on, he goes into specific details. He tells you that the least of our problems is going to be car manufacturers. We're going to have a bloodbath.
How do you get that? How do you make that connection? How do you go from car manufacturing to we're going to have a bloodbath if I'm not elected?
Well, it doesn't make sense, but that's just how Trump speaks. He's just basically telling you that everything is going to go absolutely wrong. There's going to be blood in the streets if I'm not president. And so he's playing to the lowest common denominator, to the fear. Fear is a powerful motivator, and he gins the people up that follow him with he pumps them full of fear. He gives them a weekly or daily boogeyman, and they just live in a prison of fear, which is really sad. And I hear all those people in the background with him cheering, but it's obvious that they're ignorant to the fact that 100% tariff on a vehicle basically puts purchasing a car out of the realm of possibility for virtually every American family, other than 1%. So I don't know what there's to be a cheer about with 100% tariff when you're suddenly walking to work as opposed to driving.
Which will not be good for the economy, which will not be good for a lot of things. Because our system is so interrelated, it will cause like a domino effect.
Right.
So even if we look past the bloodbath comment, when we're looking at the policy of 100% tariff on a tax on a car, and the impact, like you said, that it would have on the economics of the American family, it still would be detrimental.
Right. It's as if he took an economics class in the 30s and he doesn't understand how the world works now. Everything is interrelated. The Chinese need the United States. The United States needs China. When I say that, what do I mean? Well, all of those cheap goods that we like to go and buy out of Walmart and Target and various other stores, they're all manufactured in places like China and Vietnam. And they're manufactured there because the goods can be made at an affordable price for Americans. And I hear everyone says, well, we need to bring those jobs back. Yes. Okay. Let's say we closed every television plant in China and moved it to the United States. You know that $750 you spent on that 70-inch TV? Well, now that TV will be worth about $5,000. You'll have to pay about $5,000 for it because you're going to have to pay Americans a living wage to manufacture it. So while all of this sounds good and it gins up all of these spirits in people about manufacturing, people also need to take the passion out of the whole thing and look at it at its very base and from its economics. And that is, are you willing to pay 5 times more for items now than you were when we were making it overseas? That's a question you've got to make. The other question that he doesn't want to deal with and no one else wants to deal with is, what are we going to do with the jobs we have here when it comes to AI and further automation? That's a conversation that we need to be having. This economic argument that we're having now from the 30s is gone. We're headed to an automated workforce now. And like you were talking in your last segment about retirement, we now have more people going to be on retirement than are working. So how are we going to sustain Social Security for my daughter who's 8? I'm probably going to get a Social Security check because I'm 50. But what will she get? And so those are the conversations we need to be having, not telling people that, oh, we're just going to have random murders and a bloodbath in the street, because that's not true.
Right. And the thing is, as we close this out, Brother Caesar, I thank you for your analysis. As we look at this, something that crossed my mind during the break was that the only thing that's stopping a person like a Trump from getting into power is the people, right? That's really the barrier. It's the American people. Now, not to say that he doesn't have his followers, but how do you think now that we're kind of going into the second round of this matchup between Trump and Biden, how do you think that this is going to play out? Because we see now each one has had their chance of serving America as president. Each one has had their turn. How do you think this is going to play out now, even though we're 8 months out? Do you think the American people are going to wake up and say, you know what? I want something different. I want a different America. I want to improve and not destroy. What do you see happening?
I have no scientific basis for this, and what I'm about to tell you is anecdotal. But believe it or not, I go to the barbershop once a week because I get my beard trimmed. I'm still holding on. But when I go in the barbershop, I listen to the conversations, and comparing now to what we had during the last elections, it's frightening how many everyday average working class Black people, particularly Black men, that are willing to vote for Donald Trump. If the Democratic Party doesn't get on message soon, I got to tell you, I think Donald Trump probably will win. And that's not me saying I want him to win. I'm just telling you because I don't. I mean, I think he's antithetical to the concept of a constitutional democracy. He is the worst thing that we could ever have. But I'm just telling you that average, everyday folk, Black folk, they are supporting Donald Trump. And that, I think, in large measure says that the Democratic Party has taken for granted a significant voting bloc, and they have the perception, they being the Democrats, of only coming around when it's election time. And it's always, oh, we worked hard, but we can never get it. But you see the Republicans, when they get in office, they seem to do what they want to do. So I don't know how we get over that hump, but we're going to have to do it quickly. And it's not going to be by bringing in Beyonce or some singer to shake everybody's hand. We're going to have to come up with substantive policies that affect the lives of everyday working Black folk. And just talking about prison reform isn't it, because I don't know. I mean, I don't have family members in prison. My clients don't go to prison by and large. So that's not what we're focused. And most folks don't have someone in the prison system, but they do have kids that are in schools that are failing, and they are paying more at the grocery store. So those are the things we need to talk about, not those those passion issues to get your blood. No, people are now, they're hungry for meat and potatoes, and they haven't been given the meat and potato issues that the Democratic Party needs to do.
Elmira Frierson, you checked in from Facebook saying, Democrats, it is too late. I don't think it's too late. Elmira, I don't think it's too late. I think, we still have a long, about 8 months left before the election. So I don't think it's too late. What else? Deborah Anderson, you say from Facebook, why the threats? This is so sad that this man wants to hurt people, which is, and I'm telling you, I've been throwing this term out. It's called nihilism. Like you want to destroy the very thing you say you believe in and protect, right? And it's just interesting and fascinating to see that you have a man in this role as a candidate for president of the United States who does not care about certain systems. Now, as Black folks, that might be appealing because of our history and relationship with the United States government. So to your point, Brother Caesar, when you talk about Black men, Black men said, well, the Department of Justice hasn't done right by me. Homeland Security hasn't done right by me and my immigration. This agency hasn't done right, which is true. But the type of change that we're asking for and the type of change that Trump is proposing, two different realities.
Exactly. But the point is that I think by them voting for Trump, people gravitate towards strength. I'm sorry, they just do. If and the perceived strong person, even though I think he's a weakling, is Donald Trump, because he talks tough, he beats his chest, he says what he wants to say, and he seems to be able to do whatever he wants to do. And he doesn't. So what we've seen from the Democratic Party is it's just all touchy-feely. It doesn't. And so I think what you're seeing is black folk coming to a head, that black people are saying, we voted for the Democrats for the last 50, 60 years, and what do we have to show for it? And yes, you can say, well, yes, we've had a black president. We did. We had Barack Obama, good president. I personally feel he could have done a whole lot more than he did, but that's a question for another time. But how systemically is the black community better now than it has been when we started voting for Democrats? Yeah. We lost more black home ownership under Barack Obama than any other president. That and you can't deny that. And you also, when you get into the statistics of it, 70% of children that are black middle class children, 70% of them will do worse financially than their parents. I'm talking about kids born to a solid middle class home, two black kids, two college educated parents, whether their parents be doctors or lawyers. 70% of them will do worse than their parents. How do we deal with those issues? And no one talks about those issues. And you also need to understand that black folks, they're smart. They see that they're members of Congress that seem to become millionaires overnight from the stock market. And they do it by the information that they get by virtue of being in Congress. So they see all of these inequities, and they want a piece of the pie too. And at the end of the day, they want to believe that this country rewards hard work and it punishes thieves. And we don't see that. And so I think black folks, by and large, may either vote for Trump or stay at home if we don't get on message. We've got to get a message out. We do.
Absolutely. Caesar McKnight checking in, one of who is an attorney, and he has his law firm that's doing the work that needs to be done. But Brother Caesar, I thank you so much, and we'll certainly bring you back on for further conversation. But thank you for giving us your time today, brother.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Absolutely. You too. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, a lot to think about. But let's switch gears. Let's talk about health and wellness up next. Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget, MD. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in for the second half of the show. And we are streaming live right now on our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. And on that platform, you can find all of the past shows we've done, especially special conversations that Big Brother Roland Martin has had, along with all of the other dynamic programming here on the network. So you can just go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com, download the app for free, follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And of course, we ask for your donation. As you saw Brother Roland say, your donation makes everything possible. So your support is necessary. So just go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure you follow me, yours truly, at The Real Farajii on Instagram, at Farajii on the X platform. And I would love to connect with you there. All right, folks, it is time now for another installment, as today is Monday, and it's time for us to get another installment of Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget. All right, Bridget, Dr. Bridget.
Ever since I've seen you, how are you?
It has been a long time.
Yeah,
it's been a long time. The doctor needs to be in weekly, not every other week.
I know, yeah.
Well, that was my fault, though. That was my fault. So I'm gonna blame myself. Dr. Bridget, MD, how are you this afternoon?
Great. How are you, Farajii?
I'm good. Let's talk about some things. First, can we talk about marriages and divorces in this country?
Yeah. So, just looking at different medical information, social information that's going on, and apparently marriage rates are up. And I think this may be a little surprising after our experiences during the pandemic and COVID, but typically marriages range around 7 to 8 per 1,000 people for the last about 20 years. And during 2020, it got down to 5.1 for every 1,000 people. And by 2022, we're up to 6.2. So we're on our way to walking down the aisle again.
Wow. So if marriages are up, divorces are down, what does this mean? What does this say to you, Doc, as one who works with families and as one who's looking at having these conversations about healthy relationships? Does that mean that the country is getting into a different, a much more nuanced and a better place looking at the union of marriage? Or what does that say to you?
Well, I think there's a couple different layers to this. Some of it is that during COVID, people delayed their weddings because they wanted to have the big wedding, couldn't do it. And so then they started jumping on the bandwagon and getting married in 2021 and after. But there's a lot more to be said about it as well. They're finding that how people are choosing their partners are different, that instead of the fairy tale romantic partners that we have grown to look for, particularly in American culture, people are being a little bit more pragmatic and people are looking for a better companion. And so by having a better companion, they're choosing marriages differently than how we had chosen them in the past.
Choosing marriage. Now, so that's the thing, because I think it's very interesting that, and I've been listening to like your healthy relationship pieces, and it's like now you have to be much more intentional about who you are looking to spend your time with, and who you're certainly, when you get married, who you're looking to spend life with, right? And
Absolutely.
I think that is the bigger part about this intentionality and this idea. And I know I might be opening Pandora's box here, Doc, but this idea of falling in love.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of push back on it. You know what I'm saying? Like like we act as if, and this is part of Hollywood's doing as well, along with other the cultural, pieces. But this idea of falling in love, that it just happens versus you actually having to work for it. Like you have to put the time, the energy, the effort to make that happen, right? And it's not something that just magically appears just because you connected with another person. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that is a part of the American fairy tale that we've experienced, right? That you find your prince charming, you find your princess, you live happily ever after. There's no work involved. It just happens so automatically and magically because you fell in love. And I think little by little over the last couple decades, we've been able to see that if you believe that fairy tale, you are in for a hard time. And that it's true. It's so true.
You said if you believe the fairy tale, you said if you believe the fairy tale, you're in for a hard time.
Y'all in for a hard time. That it is true. It is true. And so I think we have better opportunities now because therapy is much more available and normalized, that the roles of marriage are also a little bit more flexible. People can be who they are, whatever that may be, versus the role that they have been forced into one way or another. And that I do think we are more willing to talk openly about our expectations and how to make it work.
Yeah.
And so once you're seeing a much more healthy, marriages developing, people approaching this from a much more practical point of view, I think people are entering into this space. I think coming out of the pandemic, and for many people, they were quarantined apart or just by themselves, and coming out of it, they wanted to find a partner that this idea of I would never want to be in that situation alone again. And for a lot of people, they were quarantined alone. We're not all Risa Tisa. We didn't choose a partner quickly to work with.
Right.
No shade on Risa. Look, love some Risa Tisa. No shade on that. But for a lot of people, they did end up kind of on their own in that space. And so coming out of that pandemic, kind of being a little bit more knowledgeable, seeing a lot of divorces happen during that time, and then being in a space of what do I really want for my life? I'm just being much more intentional about those choices. Marriage is on the uprise. So, and that's always a good thing. Always a good thing.
This is very interesting. Also, in that particular piece of data, it talks about changing how we pick our partners. Now, we got to take a quick pause, but I want you to kind of speak to that because that is a different intention. Going back to intentionality, that is a different intention. It's not always about the frills and getting swept off your feet.
Yes.
It's something very, very different. And of course, folks might be asking, well, why is she talking about wellness? I'm gonna let
This is wellness.
I'm gonna let Dr. Bridget. I'm about to say I'm gonna let Dr. Bridget because I have an answer to that. Like, being in a healthy relationship or versus being in an unhealthy relationship, it can affect you on so many different levels, folks. I'm telling you, it can affect you. All right, look, we're just getting started with Dr. Bridget. This is Reclaim Your Wellness. Stay with us, folks. We're going to get into more conversation with Dr. Bridget. I would love to hear from you. Post your comments as we're streaming live now on Brother Roland Martin's Facebook and YouTube channel. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by our medical expert, Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment. And we're talking about marriages are up, divorces are down, according to a new set of data. and this is something that CNN covered as we have this conversation. Now, as much as we are having the conversation about marriage, Doc here wanted to kind of bust up all of the myths that comes along with marriage, right? You know, she wanted to have to focus on healthy marriages and not just marriages that are rooted in romance and passion. Now, here's the thing about that, because I want us to, as we have in these conversations, like understand, like why, as you as a family doctor, as a medical doctor, as one who deals with health and wellness, why are you having a conversation about marriage, right? At this point,
because an unhealthy marriage will kill you. To be as straightforward as it is, you know, living in unhappiness, living in loneliness, which is basically literally an epidemic right now, people feeling a sense of loneliness, that it will lead to other medical conditions. And you have, as far as most are concerned, one round on this earth. And the idea is, how can we make it as happy and healthy as possible? How can we make your experience as happy and healthy as possible? And choosing marriages that are, you know, things happen in life, don't get me wrong, but making choices or being in spaces that lead to unhappiness can lead to other medical problems in the process.
And you've seen this. I'm sure you've seen this in your practice.
Man, have I seen it. Yeah, I have.
Like, you've seen this in both men and women, and of course with the children, right?
Yes.
But you've seen this.
You know, I will say, my first thought when you said the children, I remember, you know, because as a family physician, I'm seeing mom, I'm seeing dad, I'm seeing the kids, right? Sometimes I might be seeing grandma and grandpa too. And I've seen where a marriage, you know, many times I'm with these families for a decade or more, right? And so I've seen a marriage start to sour. In the process of it souring, the kids become neglected. The kids develop sometimes medical conditions in the process. I've seen, you know, a stressed little boy who, due to the stress and the fighting and the arguing, is eating in the middle of the night in a very unhealthy way, you know, putting food underneath his bed and just trying to cope. And the next time I see him, he has, you know, he's on his way and he has diabetes. And so, you know, I've seen how it can affect people. None of this is isolated, right? How we live our lives they're so connected. And so our mental health, our physical health is such one and the same. And if we don't take care of one, the other one will falter as well. So yeah, marriage, relationships, and when I say relationships, not just intimate relationships, but, you know, parents and children and work relationships and friends, all of those change our life experience and how we see the world. And so the more we can do better things to have a better experience, you know, the healthier we can be.
Absolutely. I want to go to what one licensed marriage and family therapist said, Ian Turner, and he talks about changing how we pick our partners. He said, in my practice over the last decade, I've noticed a gradual shift from the romantic marriage to the companionate marriage. I like this. This is a new term. I never heard this term before, Doc. And that means that people are increasingly choosing spouses at the outset who are more like best friends than passionate partners. And according to his analysis, saying doing so may lead to problems with attraction if you're always thinking about, you know, trying to figure out who lights your fire versus who you can go through life with, right? It may present problems with attraction, but it also means those people are choosing partners based on qualities likely to promote long-term stability and satisfaction.
Yes.
So you have romantic marriage, but now people are saying companionate marriage. And I am kind of like blown away by this, because it's like marriage is the day-to-day effort. Marriage is day-to-day work, right? That's how it, you know, Trust me, it's day to day. So you can't just be like, oh, wake up and then you not be mindful of your spouse. So why is this important? Why do we need to make this distinction and saying, look, it can't just always be about romance, passion, and the Hollywood sex scenes that we often see, but there has to be that the person that you wake up next to or the person that you're spending your life with is a person that can get through the ups and downs of life, a person that you can rely on, like that companion at marriage. Why do there needs to be that difference?
You know, it's so important because the fire will eventually burn out, right? And the fact of the matter is the person that might light your fire might not be the same type of person that you can have a long-term relationship with. They might not be one and the same. I think we seek that, right? We seek the person that, you know, gives us butterflies is also the person that you can do a long-term relationship with, but it's not always the case. And the fact of the matter is that if you can find someone that has longevity, just like people have best friends sometimes their entire lives, right? But not everyone has a companion marriage for their entire life. And so this has to be someone that not only you can start a relationship with and have grow, to be able to be in that moment with, but it has to be someone that you can also have growth with. And we want it to be the person with the butterflies and lighting the fire and giving you that feeling, but that fire eventually burns out. And what do you have when it's done? And if you don't have something of quality, then you're not going to have the marriage that you had wanted and wished for.
Real quick, Doc, before we take our next pause, how does a person who experienced a very passionate, highly, the very burning fire type of interaction with someone, that fire and that passion can be so strong that can it be possible that it kind of messes up your judgment to say, oh no, this is my companion at first. This is my partner. This is not just a hot romance. This is a person that can go to day to day. Can it be possible that you can kind of misinterpret that to yourself and put somebody in one category of your life where they don't belong?
I mean, we lie to ourselves every day, to every day. Every day we lie to ourselves about something, right? To see the world the way we want to see it, right?
Right.
And to be honest, this does require a certain level of maturity because you have to know what's important to you. And how do you know what's important to you unless you know yourself? Right. And so to be able to choose a partner that you can go the long haul with, you have to have a certain understanding of who you are. That requires maturity. I think in America, we've always looked at the arranged marriages as, being patriarchal and not giving women, their freedom and what have you. But these are people that sometimes parents that know you better and know themselves and know you came from them, choosing a partner that could relate to you in a way or your family that could be a long-term marriage, right? And so I'm not advocating for one way or the other, but I am saying that marriage is not for the weak. It's not for the immature, and it's not for the people. It's not for someone that has lower self-esteem. We also look at people that are married tend to be happier than people that are unmarried. The issue with that research is that we don't necessarily think it's marriage that makes them happier. It's the type of person that is seeking marriage, that is upwardly mobile, that is nice to be around. Those are the people that are seeking marriage, that people are seeking them, and they happen to get married. Are happy people getting married, or does marriage make people happy is the question, right? And a certain level of maturity and self-awareness, hopefully you're someone that can choose a partner that can be lifelong.
Absolutely. Wow. Great analysis on this new data. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have a conversation now. in the relationship when children are brought into the conversation, how do you handle it? That Dr. Bridget is going to bring us up to speed on the latest over-the-counter drug that has gotten everybody talking. Women are wondering, is this a way to really deal with the conversation about children? So we're going to talk a little bit about that and so much more. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. And it is a big day in the medical community as the first over-the-counter birth control pill goes on sale today. We're talking about Opill. This is the first OTC birth control pill that's been approved in the United States, and online sales begin today. And Why is, I mean, I understand it that it's a huge deal, but why is it like a huge deal that this is available?
So it is available online. It's available on the OPIL website. It's available on Amazon today. I checked it out. It is literally on Amazon, which I don't know what I thought, but it literally is online right now. And it is a big deal because access to medical care to obtain birth control has always been an issue. And so for women that might be in remote places, people that may sometimes are in difficult relationships where they're being forced into pregnancies, abusive relationships. Some places just have limited access overall. And so to be able to order this and eventually go into CVS, into other places and get an over the counter birth control pill is an opportunity, particularly in a country where you're basically saying we don't want women to have access to abortion. You got to give women some ability to control their bodies, right? And OPIL is that new opportunity. But there's some downfalls with this as well.
Talk to us about that because that's what I was going to ask. Is this something that you would recommend, that you would advocate to your patients?
So, I find it interesting that this also obviously gives access to teenagers to be able to start contraception potentially without even their parents being aware of it. And the price of this is about $20 a pack for the most part. And so, overall, it's an affordable option. The downfall is that there are always contraindications to birth control. Now, let me say what I'm excited about, because at first I was terrified when I saw this, because if you're getting an estrogen progesterone birth control pill, there are so many contraindications and medical issues that can develop. There's, if you're a smoker, if you have certain blood diseases, if you have certain breast cancer background, what have you, there are a lot of reasons why you should not just be able to take estrogen and progesterone birth control pills on its own, right? This is a progesterone only pill. And so the number of contraindications go down significantly. The likelihood of blood clots goes down significantly. So they didn't do this completely blindly, right? They did choose an option that is a little bit safer, but to say that it's entirely safe would not be fair either.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about who would benefit the most from an over-the-counter pill like this, like Opal. According to the research, and one particular professor of obstetrics and gynecology, Dr. Anne Marie Ames Oschliger, she said that the folks that would benefit from the most from this are those who have limited access to contraception in the first place. She said there are a lot of people in our country that live in what we would call contraceptive deserts. And these are areas where they have limited to no access to a reproductive health care provider, meaning they have to drive really far away to be able to access a provider, or they may not have access to a pharmacy close by. So you're talking about women who live in remote, rural areas, or may not have access to transportation in order to travel to the stores that carry it. Is that the only group that you see being most affected by that would benefit the most from OPIL, or do we need to throw in Black women? Because there are drugstores in the Black community all over the place.
Right.
We got a lot of drugstores, right? But is access and transportation, and more importantly, knowledge, are these some barriers for Black women?
So I think having access to birth control pills without having to be seen in an office, have a medical visit, does open it up, particularly for women that have transportation or access issues. When it comes to Black women in particular, to be able to see this physician and be able to get the medications that you need sometimes is an issue for a number of reasons, right? For a lot of us, going and seeing an OBGYN, someone that will treat us with respect, and to be able to get what we need without being hassled. I had a good friend of mine who had horrible periods but was a virgin, and this is late into her 20s and almost 30 years old, and no one would believe her. She literally was going to fly from North Carolina to see me in Ohio for me to prescribe or work with her because of how she was treated.
Wow.
And she really wanted the birth control pills because of horrible periods, but they said, oh, well, you need this pap smear, you need this. And she was like, no, I'm a virgin. And they would just laugh at her, to be honest. And it was a horrible situation for her. And so we need to be treated with respect. I think taking the medical conversation out of this is not a good idea. And part of this is that pharmacists can, in 39 states, I believe, or 29 states are now able to write prescriptions for birth control. And so if this is not the pill for you, they may be able to write one instead. Don't get me wrong, pharmacists are definitely knowledgeable, but removing the full medical knowledge and history of a patient and getting into a place, I think this is more about how medicine is changing, that we do these, shop for prescription type of care now versus a comprehensive medical examination with a provider that knows you well and that you know well. That is slowly dissipating. And I think that is definitely unfortunate. And this is just another symbol of that happening.
Absolutely. We're going to take another quick pause. When we come back, let's continue the conversation with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture. I'm about to say to the Black Star Network. We're on the Black Star Network, but welcome back to the culture. And we are in the midst of our weekly segment, the Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget, MD. And Dr. Bridget is joining us, talking to us about the first U.S.-approved over-the-counter birth control pill, Opal, which is now available for online sales, and you can pick it up in stores across the country. And it comes at, you can buy it for 1 month supply or 3 month supply or 6 month supply based upon your online order. And it's got a lot of people talking, especially now, given the fact that there is a huge conversation about women's reproductive health and women be able to make choices for their own bodies and for their own selves in light of the abortion precedent that was set last year, and so many other state laws that are being enacted right now. So this is like would you say this is like a quiet revolution that's happening, Dr. Bridget, in around this? Is this because I feel like this would have still happened even if Roe v. Wade was not overturned. This would still happen even if we weren't having the conversation. Like there are the other things that are happening. And I think a lot of women are pushing for this level of agency and being able to say, I can make my own decisions. Now, you brought up something I think was very important, which is if you have teenagers, young girls who are going to the stores and buying it, do you think that there's going to be some security measure that stores will have to start to implement, maybe show ID or something along that nature, for the purchase of this? Because I can see 18, 19-year-old girls saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna buy oat pill and then I'm gonna do what I do. So how was that situation managed, do you think?
You know, the fact of the matter is the 18 or 19-year-old is what it is. I mean,
it might be 16, unfortunately, right? In some cases.
12-year-old, the 13-year-old, those are the that's reality. That's reality.
I know.
And so that's where I'm most concerned. And particularly when you look at a progesterone only pill, it does work well, but it only works well when it's taken at exactly the same time every single day and not skipping any pills. You have a little bit more leeway when you have an progesterone pill, but progesterone pills, you've got to do it right almost all the time. And I say that if the average woman, adult woman, when she's taking it, the way that you might miss something or might be a little delayed. It works about 91% of the time. If you take it as prescribed, it's going to be a lot more like 99%. But if you're a teenage girl who's doing anything on time every time and you're 16, right?
Right.
So the risk of pregnancy is still there. And of course, the belief that, oh, if I'm taking this, then I will never get pregnant is an issue, right? Because unless you're being very methodical about it, you can still get pregnant. The other aspect of this, and if you're just buying it over the counter, who reads the inserts anyhow when you buy a medication, right?
Right.
You want to be able to get pregnant within a year, 2 years, sometimes longer, depending on how long you're on this medication. It will be very difficult to get pregnant. Okay. And so that is going to be, I've seen adult women that have taken progesterone focused birth control that really struggle, that they get married, they're ready to have kids, and it's very difficult to kind of turn their body back on again. And so you have someone that's not totally knowledgeable about what's going on, this might not be the right choice for them. However, it is now, don't get me wrong, I think decreasing the roadblocks to contraception is really important, right? And men can buy condoms anywhere and everywhere, and they're given away half the time, and they have that choice. For women, a lot harder, okay? And so I don't have a problem at all. I think, like you said, this is a revolution as far as being able to have access to birth control, okay? And to a birth control that is easier to take. You know, there's some things over the counter that are not that effective or desirable to take or utilize. And so this is an incredible opportunity, but we can't do it blindly. And so if you have and keep in mind, we also will have sometimes women who are perimenopausal, that it may not be a good idea for them to take birth control to kind of control their hormone levels. And rumors get out and they're taking it and they shouldn't be taking it either. So if you've had breast cancer within the last 5 years, this is not for you. If you have high cholesterol, atherosclerosis, arterial disease, not a great idea. If, of course, you are currently pregnant, not a great idea. If you have diabetes with kind of progressed diabetes with retinopathy, this is also not for you. And like I said, the more difficult part for young people is that you are not able to get back to your fertility quickly. It will take some time for you to get back on track.
A lot to think about. Why do you think, and let me do this, but I want you to kind of get us your take on this. Why do you think the FDA approved oat pill without any age restriction?
Because if it had estrogen in it, this would be a huge, huge problem, right? Because Opill by itself, because of progesterone by itself, it's the safest of options. Okay. And I think if there's a reality that there are young girls that are sexually active. There are people in abusive marriages that are being forced to have children that they don't want to have. That this is an opportunity to take control of your fertility and your body and your reproduction. And so to put an age limit on it, what age do you say is the cutoff? There could be a young child that is literally being abused at home, sexually abused at home, and is saying, hey, this is something I need to do. Now, in an ideal world, hopefully that person can go to an adult, but sometimes this might be the option that they have to protect themselves.
That is serious. So serious. Lori Parks, you checked in, Lori. You said if you can order fast food every single day, pay high price for it, along with having it delivered, you can afford $20 a month for birth control pills.
I mean, that's so true. Yeah.
It's very true. There's also McCole Spicer. McCole, you said this is why we need more women doctors. This is why more women doctors are needed to have these conversations. And that was going to be my final question to you, Doc, is that how do parents, mothers and fathers, grandparents and grandmothers, aunts and uncles, how do families and I don't want to say schools, but I think we may need to have some conversations within the schools right about this. But how do we have these conversation about Opill now that it's available, now that it's over the counter, now that it's available with no age restrictions? Where do we start with that conversation to the little girls, to the young women? How do we have that conversation?
I think, parents can go to their daughters and go to their sons too, okay, and say, hey, this Opill is now available. It is over the counter. It is something that if you feel that you wanted to utilize contraception so that you're not getting pregnant, this is something that you could utilize. But I am saying this to you because there are probably better options for you. And if you can go to the store and pick up that box off the shelf in secrecy, I have opened up this window so that you can come to me. So we can make better options and better decisions for you openly, without judgment, without drama and everything else involved. I am let this be the window to allow for better communication.
There's got to be some trust there, and there's got to be some real acceptance. You got to be ready.
Yeah.
You can't be like, my baby ain't having no sex. My baby ain't having no sex. Girl, you're not doing that. And how do you recommend that dads have these conversations as well? Because I don't want to leave the fathers out.
A parent is a parent is a parent, and we all have the responsibility.
Right.
And I say that to sons as well, because the son might be buying it for the girlfriend.
Woo! Come on, Doc. Come on.
So I mean, don't
fathers gotta. The mother's got to sit down with the boys. The father's got to sit down. Like there needs to be some conversations. If you have teenagers in your family, or you got preteens in your family, but if you have teenagers in your family or college students in your family, like there has to be a conversation. It can't just be relied on the mother to talk about this, and dad has to be a part of the conversation and sharing this as well, because something that I hear from women all the time is that there is a greater emphasis on girls to be a certain way in their sexuality and their sexual behaviors, and less emphasis on the boys, that boys are not taught to make healthy sexual decisions from a very early stage. We're taught that, go out there, sow your royal oats and all of that type of stuff. But then when the reality and the consequences of pregnancy comes into the picture, now you want to sit down and have the conversation after the fact. So that part of the culture needs to change too, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I have to say, you do make me laugh a little bit, because until coming to America, it was just sowing your oats, and then now that now it's your royal oats.
Royals.
Now it's your royal oats, right? So that in itself, but no, this is really an excellent tool to be able to have a difficult conversation, and so utilize this as an opportunity to be ready. You should have already been ready, okay? But be ready, but use this medication that is now available that they can buy if they want to buy it. Use this as a tool to say you don't have to do secrets. Never. You want to talk about being healthy? Secrets are never healthy. You know, and so don't make your child be secretive. Open the door. Open the door.
There it is, right there. There it is. Dr. Bridget, always bringing it. Y'all can definitely check her out. Are we having an after chat this evening, Doc, around this?
I am, yes. So if you go to Dr. Bridget's Wellness Reclaimed on YouTube, this week I believe we are talking about pivoting when your work situation is not good for you. And I believe the week after we're talking about intimacy recovery and cheating, and we're talking to a sex therapist that helps people recover from deceit.
Woo, that's heavy. That is really heavy. And this is how the doctor brings it each and every week, y'all. Make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms at Dr. Bridget MD on all social media platforms. She can be seen and heard here on The Culture on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And we truly thank her for bringing so much good information about our health and wellness each and every week here, man. I'm telling you, she is dope. She is absolutely dope. So follow her social media, check her out here on the show, and continue to stay tuned to her. Dr. Bridget, MD, thank you so much for being so good for the culture.
Absolutely. And happy anniversary, Farajii. This is a year together. A year.
A whole year.
Yes. A whole year.
I've had Dr. Bridget on the show for a whole year. Can we get a little quick round of applause for that? Little horns or something like that? Can we get some horns? There we go. There we go. All right, Doc. I appreciate you. Happy anniversary. And we look forward to connecting with you once again next week.
Absolutely. I'll see you then. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. I thank each and every one of you. Big shout out to all of the folks, the new folks that joined us in the chat. And hope you enjoyed the conversation just as much as I did. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Also want to give a big shout out to T King 60610. That's T King 60610. T King, thank you so much for joining us as another great donor for the Bring the Funk fan club. Coming in at a level 1, T King. You are making it happen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And folks, you can do the same. Just join us. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com, and you can find out how you can put something in the pot for us to support this movement that we are embarked upon, because your donation makes a world of difference. It truly matters, folks. And T King, thank you so much for putting your money where your mouth is and saying, you know what? I think this show and this space and this platform is worthy of a few dollars from me, so I'm going to give it. So T King, thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, make sure y'all follow us at Black Star Network on all social media platforms. Follow Big Brother Roland Martin on social media. And yours truly, you can follow me on IG at The Real Farajii and on the X platform at Farajii. That's going to do it for me, but I thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Time is Brother Roland Martin's and Roland Martin Unfiltered, RMU. As always, bringing a fire, talking about the issues, and so much more. So make sure y'all stick around for that. But as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture, right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening. Talk to you soon. Peace.